Welcome to the Jake Nulph Show here at the Edinburgh Hotel as we take a look back at Seton Hill and a look ahead to Slippery Rock. And Coach, obviously, we're going to have a conversation that we may have had a time or two before. But I want to ask, now that you've had and obviously it was an emotional, we didn't really necessarily have, a deep dive post-game, kind of. But when you look at that game, and I think it's very similar to the Clarion game, where in that first half, there's 5 plays. 5 plays that you made the previous Saturday, 5 plays that you probably didn't make, or you didn't. We always talk about those momentum type plays.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it got out of hand. It just felt like you kept stubbing your toe. I mean, you were in positions to make plays, and you couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting start. I mean, we go and we end up we take the opening series and we go right down, right?
Yep.
Score, which was a really good
Which I
drive.
believe was the first time you did that all year, right?
Yeah,
For a
touchdown, yes.
Yeah,
We've kicked a field goal, but for a touchdown there. And, it was our most productive drive of the day. And credit to Seton Hill, I think they made some adjustments and they got out of some things that they generally always do, and then we'll get to that in a moment. But, I thought the offense came out. We established right away. We got the pass game working. It's funny, we track explosive plays, and we only had 4 of those. And what do I mean by explosive plays? Is that's plus 12 run and plus 15 passes, and we had 3 of those in the first drive. And we go in and we score, and unfortunately we missed the extra point. And for whatever reason, unfortunately that kind of takes a little bit of the air out of the sails. We could say that it doesn't, but it's like, and then we kick off. The second play of the game, we just, from a defensive standpoint, we missed a check, and they ended up big playing us. They went ahead, and we talk about those plays that we make and we usually don't make. Well, there's some positives, I think, in that first half, because when the half ended, it was 14-14. Like you said, it felt like we kept stubbing our toe, like we were in control, but then we'd lose control. And momentum swings in the first half was back and forth. We had an uncharacteristic penalty on our punt return where we had a young man that was trying to make a play, and he ran into Armani Bailey, our returner, and he ended up muffing the punt. That gives Seton Hill an extremely short field.
I want to ask you that because when we watched it in real time, I thought it hit the kid from Seton Hill, so it did.
No, yeah, it was us. Okay, it was all self-inflicted there.
Okay, because when we watched it in real time, both Jovan and I thought that it hit the kid from Seton Hill, not. So, that's – No,
so we actually ran into Armani, and then he muffed the punt. They recovered again, and that's an uncharacteristic mistake for us. But credit to the defense, they were put in 2 pretty tough situations and didn't allow any points in that second and third series for Seton Hill on offense. One was the muffed punt, and then another one was we threw an untimely interception, and same thing. We forced Seton Hill out on downs. We made them miss a field goal. So I thought our defense played extremely well in spots there because they had went up 7-0, and then, we throw the pick, then we had the muff punt. Like, it could have been 21-6 before you know it. And, we kind of kept a lid on the pot. They went up 14-6. Our offense, I thought, had a great response drive. We ended up throwing a deep ball to Thad Stanfield for 40 yards. We get the 2-point conversion. We're tied at 14. Momentum things kind of shifted back and forth. We go into the half in a tie football game. We weren't happy at halftime because of the things that we were doing from we can't turn the ball over, Joe. And we talk about that all the time. We're not an outfit that can gift wrap possessions and say, here you go, take an extra. Nobody can do that at any level of football. And to be tied at 14 with what we had felt like we didn't play our best football at that point, you hit the reset button and you go 0-0. And we talk about the plays that you made last week and the plays we didn't. I thought Seton Hill did a really good job. They took the ball away from us 4 times where we only get 1 takeaway, and it was actually the first play of the second half. Seton Hill fumbled the ball. Alan Strizinger recovered it. Offense, all the momentum. We get the ball 1st and 10 on the 11-yard line. And then from that point on, unfortunately, we just had negative plays. And we ended up getting no points on that series. And Seton Hill drives down, kicks the field goal, 17-14. And then another untimely turnover with the pick 6. Yeah. We go down 10, trying to get some momentum back. And Reed Martin.
Now, was that,
listen,
was that him or was that you?
No, that was Reed.
Okay.
Reed is the thing, and you can talk to Nico about this when you have him on. He has the green light for a lot of stuff, Joe. That's how much confidence we have in him.
Even in that field position?
Even in that field position.
All right.
Because, I felt like they got a little greedy there. They were up 10, and they had been extremely conservative from their punt return unit. And I think they got their hand caught in the cookie jar, and then Reed popped one all the way down to the 35. And that was the momentum play. I was like, okay, here we go. It's still halfway through the third. You're down 10. Let's get a score here and make it a one-possession game. And Seton Hill just wasn't having it.
You talk about that play, and, we always talk about stacking blocks. How quickly it went from stacking blocks to the sweater unraveling.
No question.
And it's like I said, stubbing your toe. Like there was – You mentioned the Strizinger, fumble recovery. Okay, all right, now it's okay. That slops behind you, and then it's backwards, and then you get the. But it just it just felt like you could never get it going.
Agreed.
Was that you? That them? Combination of the both?
I think it's a combination of both. The thing is, when you look at Seton Hill and how they're made up, Joe, that is an extremely talented defense that we saw. That is a very fifth-year senior-driven defense that we saw. No one's been able to run the ball on them all year, including IUP. They play.
I think Cal had 140 or 151 against them. I mean, that's a great run defense.
No, yeah, I mean they don't allow you to get in that type of game. They're going to make you throw it. They haven't had any leads all year, and then all of a sudden you get them in a 2-possession lead. Well, they're just going to lock it down, and that's exactly what they did. And unfortunately, we just couldn't make enough plays on offense to get things going and get the momentum turned in our favor. And then once they had the lead, well, in turn, they were able to establish their run game, which is what they've been struggling to do all year. And they popped some big plays, and that was really, when you look at the tail of the tape, and we asked 2 reasons why you win, 2 reasons why you lose every week, we felt like we needed splash plays on offense, and we couldn't give up any on defense. And when I talked to the team today, we had mentioned they had 13 splash plays to our 4.
Yeah, I mean, well, their per completion was a splash play.
No question. Well, they were feast or fathom. When you look
that's
at
what I mean. I think they only had 8 completions, and they averaged like 24 yards of completion.
Yeah, and that was uncharacteristic. There was just a lot there. And credit to Seton Hill and Coach Day and that staff. I know throw records out the window, and that was a dangerous football team, and we had talked about that. It was like the perfect formula for them on Saturday. Once they established that 2-possession lead in the second half, they shut it down.
And then the one thing that I really felt, and you could see it as well, and the one thing that we've talked about each and every week is your lack of big interior D lineman. Ty Thornton goes down.
Yeah.
And then it was just things got a lot easier for them. And, we've, again, not to belabor the point, but that's one thing that the first show of the year we talked about.
Absolutely.
Is there going to be enough, interior defensive linemen? Ty Thornton has established himself as that lead dog. Yeah. He comes out, and it's a much different defense.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, it's funny you say that, because even us as a staff, it looked like 2 different defenses, because Ty Thornton's a tremendous player for us, and he generates a lot of those negative plays, tackles for losses, generates a pass rush. And when you take him out of the lineup, especially when they're in a game where they're going to run the football because they have the lead and you're down one of your best defensive players, that's tough on anybody at any level. And, but again, credit to Seton Hill. And we also talked today, too. We got to make plays. That's the thing where we make plays in abundance when things are going extremely well. And that's a contagious thing, whether it's the offense, whether it's the defense, whether it's special teams. But when momentum is going against us, and maybe this is our youth showing, Joe, but we haven't had that next play to get it going. Like you said, the fumble recovery. Well, we just couldn't quite punch it in. And then, unfortunately, the interception for 6 goes the other way, and then we get the punt read with the punt, and we just couldn't get the next one and the next one.
It felt like, to use a basketball analogy, like you don't necessarily on the offensive side have Steph Curry that can go get you a bucket. We need to play. This has to be the guy,
right.
And it comes and goes. And I think as the years, with a lot of these guys get matured and figured out, we need 11 yards, whether it's Nico or Thad or Brody but we need 11 yards and go get it for us.
Absolutely. And then again, that part of that is what Seton Hill was doing. They're a man-free, bare front football team. They're going to load the box. They'll have +1, sometimes +2, which dictate you're not going to be able to run it in there, so you got to spit the ball to the perimeter. And once they established that lead, they actually, to their credit, got out of that and started playing a lot more zones. They started saying, okay, well, guess what? Now you can't throw your chunk plays because now we're going to sit back a little bit and they're going to make us throw underneath. And, again, it's a tough – when you're down like that in the second half against that football team, credit to them.
Now, if you look at their body of work to this point and then what we saw Saturday – was there something specific that changed? I mean, they had some real head scratchers. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think Daniel Day would tell you they had some real head scratchers.
Yeah.
Was there something? I mean, between that D line and that group of linebackers.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, how just by accident they should have won some game. I mean, that's a talented defensive front.
That was, and we had talked about that, and that's why the points all week were. Another thing too, they're a highly penalized football team. They had 84 penalties coming into Saturday's game. And part of the things that we were emphasizing all week, Joe, is don't get dragged into that type of game because the scary stat on their 84 penalties was the opponents were having 79. And unfortunately, we started to get into a little bit of that football game. And, their defense is clearly, they're really good. And their offense had just been struggling because they hadn't really established the run game like they wanted, and they weren't getting a lot of production at quarterback. And, again, to their credit, I thought their trigger guy made some timely throws and some really good ones.
And they stuck with him.
Yeah.
They brought in Scott for one run play.
Yep.
When the game, they went with Bradley the entire game, which was, again, something we didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I give them credit. I mean, they played well, and I knew watching the film – that they were going to pose some real problems because, their size up front is not too dissimilar than Gannon.
No, I think that's a really good analogy, especially from the defensive side. I think that Seton Hill's linebackers are probably a little bit bigger and more active, but those down 3, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing is that they were able – to get in the backfield with 3 and sometimes 4.
Yep.
And then, as you alluded to, when they started playing zone, then there was literally nowhere to go with the football. Again, I marvel when watching them and then seeing them in person. And like, how, it just a lot of things didn't make sense.
Right.
And, we talk about, you stacking blocks. When they have Mercyhurst next week and then Millersville the following week, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they finished on a 3-game win streak.
Yeah,
they've got some pieces that certainly makes you wonder. I do want to get back to some of the from your perspective, defensively when you've had the chance now to review the film. We talked about chunk plays; they're so important. Was there something specifically that they were doing in the pass game that? Again, I think almost every completion, at least on average, every completion was a chunk play. Was it something specific?
No, I think just early, especially I look at the second play of the game, and it was something mental on our part. It was nothing physical. We just didn't get the check that we were supposed to get into, and we didn't get any pass rush. He had a lot of time to throw the ball, and unfortunately we busted the coverage, and it was open, and then on the second big chunk pass play. Their guy made a play. He literally just ran right by our safety and made a play, and credit to their quarterback. He put it right on the money. The most impressive throw, I thought, because those guys were open, was we had a 3rd and 9 in the third quarter, and we had press coverage on the outside. And I thought that he threw a ball where only his guy could get, and he went up over our corner between our safety and made a heck of a catch.
Bales.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he's more than.
But the throw, because, again, that was something that they weren't making those plays before. And, of course, Saturday made those plays. And, football's a interesting game. I've been around it a long time. I've played it, coached it, the whole deal. Sometimes those things happen in games. And, we're going to treat this as a learning experience. Again, there was some good things that we did out there. It wasn't all bad. But unfortunately, the 31-point second half is just, it leaves an extremely bitter taste in your mouth. I felt like we had a good practice today on a Monday. We changed things up a little bit. We just got to get back to playing football. Nobody likes losing. And, I tell our guys, and this is the mature thing, we got to learn from those mistakes. We can't let that happen again. So whenever we're done here, you're going to flush that down the toilet, and then we got to get ready for Slippery Rock.
Yeah, Slippery Rock is where we're going to go next. We're going to take a quick time out. We're here at the Edinburgh Hotel. Thank you for wherever you may be joining us. We'll be joined by Nico Mrvos when we come back, and then we'll get you ready for the Rock on the other side of the break. It's the Jake Nulph Show here at the Edinburgh Hotel. Back with more right after this. All right, welcome back. This is the Jake Nulph Show. We're here at the Edinburgh Hotel. Each week we sit down with a player. This week it's Nico Mrvos, wide receiver, long snapper. Nico, are you nervous?
A little bit. You got some nerves going, but nothing we can't handle.
All right, good. Me too. We'll figure this out together. All right. You guys have an interesting group, and it's your wide receiver group is by committee. Thad, has probably had some of the bigger games, but it's by committee. You guys are in a lot of 4 wide receiver looks. I get to know a little. I feel like it's going to sound weird, but I feel like you guys legitimately like one another. Like you're legitimately friends. You're not just wide receivers in the same room.
No, for sure. We're definitely close brotherhood. If we're out together, we're always out together. You won't catch us apart. I've gotten to know Thad, Armani, and Mike, and Alex Card, all them guys really well. Getting to like them. And we got a lot of new guys coming up, young guys, freshmen, who and we always talk about this. We're real young, man. I can't wait to see who we are next year and the year after. And it just I really like them, and they're all good people, man. I just can't complain about them.
Now, Nick, I always talk. I've been around this league a long time, and I think a lot of times people undervalue it. What was your recruitment process? How'd you end up coming here? What brought you here? But again, I don't necessarily think that people give this level of football the credit that it deserves.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, my recruitment process was kind of a little messed up. We had COVID when I was coming up here, so it was a little different than what it usually is. But honestly, the people up here, like Coach Nulph and the coaching staff, great people, and that's one of the main reasons I came here. I really love them and how they're doing, their culture they're trying to build. But it's the people that really made the big leap from every other school. Like you'll go here to school in here, and it was a big difference.
Now, obviously, this team is very young. You'll lose more. Just attrition is attrition. But I believe it's only 3 guys. I think it would be 3 guys into the off season. It's, again, nobody likes to lose, right? I understand that, but when you're talking, and Coach Nulph and I probably to the point of nauseum talking about building a culture and building. And, I look at it from the perspective that, you have to, whatever you do in your lot in life, you have to leave it better than you found it. And obviously you are one of the, first guys, the COVID guys that came in, because obviously there was no season. Like, you may have never even thought about this, but do you own that? Like, do you feel that the Jake Nulph era, legacy, whatever it is sort of on your class's shoulders? Because, again, it was really odd. New coach, no football, COVID. And, I believe the lion's share of you guys are still here. Have you ever thought about how, like, literally your class is the foundation for what his career is moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. I think about it all the time, and I think I was the second recruiting class he recruited to Edinboro. But honestly, we set the standard for all the other kids and like the freshmen that look up to us, and we have to have as young freshmen and sophomore, we have to set a higher standard for these younger kids who like come in and see what we're doing. Because if we're messing around, they're gonna mess around. So it falls on us. Obviously, the kids that were here before Coach Nulph, they did it a certain way, but honestly, it falls on us to set the standard and have a winning season coming up.
Now, certainly, this is tough, man. And we saw, Saturday was no different. If you look at the record, you got upset by Seton Hill. Gannon upsets IUP, literally. And of course, Clarion had beaten Seton Hill a couple of weeks prior. There is no week off. And, this is probably more of a matchup league. And I guess my question is when you made the transition from high school to the college level, did you realize the time that would be involved being a student of the game, not so much just preparing on the practice field?
For sure, yeah. And, like, you have your everyone will tell you, man, college is so much different than high school. And you're like, yeah, we'll see. When it hits you, it hits you. But like you said, in high school, you're one of the best kids on the team. And then when you come to college, every kid was the best kid on their high school team. So it's definitely a different level. But it definitely takes a toll. It's more of a in the books than just on the field. And you got to make a perfect practice makes perfect play. So it's definitely a big leap. The
one thing that I've found in my years, if you're just a dude, you're really dumb because you got to be the time that you have to spend, and as the fronts and everything each week changes too, and what they had done the previous week, that game plan's been thrown away because
exactly.
the film's out and everybody's got to start all over again. And I always you brought up I make that point all the time, and people say, well, look at their record. I'm like, listen. Every kid on that team was the best player on their high school team. There's nobody at this level that stinks, right? I mean, there just isn't. And I think a lot of times people really undervalue how good this league is. And, you're talking about you've gotten to see now. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the regional rankings, but in terms of the top 7, you guys have played a couple of them.
Yeah.
Like I think all of them that the PSAC offers, with Shepherd being the 1 seed. I did want to ask you, you mentioned you'd been here. So educationally, you're going to be one of those weird kids who could probably graduate next year and have, 3 more years of eligibility just because the COVID year's still in there. What's going to be your plan? What's your major? What do you plan on doing in the future?
I'm a business marketing with a minor in management. I have 2 more years left of school, but 3 more years of football. So it all depends. I'm going to go year by year. I love it up here. I always say that I bleed plaid. I love Edinboro. I can't wait to come back when I'm older and show my kids where I went to school, bring them to the hotel bar. I did a podcast here. But, no, I love it here. I don't plan on going anywhere, and this is my second home.
Well, now, when you do eventually leave, or maybe you stay in this, what do you want to do when you are done playing?
I want to get into some type of sales, whether it be medical, dental, and I want to get into some type of real estate as well, buying, leasing homes. Honestly, it's big variety. Whatever I really put my mind to, I try to do the best. So we'll see. There's a lot of options out there. So.
All right. Well, Nico Mrvos hanging out with us. Coach Nulph's going to join us when we get back to start talking about the Rock. This is the Jake Nulph Show. We're live at the Edinboro Hotel. Thank you. Welcome back to Jake Nulph Show here at the Edinboro Hotel. Number 10, I believe, in the country. Number 5 in the region. Slippery Rock. Some familiar faces. Some not so familiar faces. It's the Rock. Kind of going to, they're not too dissimilar from IUP in terms of maintaining their identity from year to year.
Absolutely. And this is a really good football team. It's a balanced football team. The one thing I can tell you is, their defense is really good. I think they're leading the PSAC in a lot of statistical categories. They do a great job with their front 6. In the secondary is much improved. I mean, not only do they play their quarter scheme, but they've been playing a lot more man-free, Joe. And, man, I'll tell you what, the thing that jumps out to me on film is if they get you in 3rd and long, they're going to play 2-man and lock things down. And, they've shut down some really high-powered offenses. And then when you flip it, they can score in a blink of an eye. Grover's a really talented trigger guy. I wouldn't call him a dual threat, Joe, but he runs well enough to hurt you. And,
Local kid, Kyle Sheets. I don't know if he's Litwin 2.0, but a Conneaut kid. Sheets is a bigger, longer target.
Very big.
Runs 6'4",
well.
6'5".
Yeah, jump ball kid, can stretch you vertically. But I tell you what, he runs really good routes. That's the one thing when you put on the tape. You think, bigger, longer guy that can just run the go ball. That's not true. He'll run all the intermediate route stuff like the slots do. I really like Dior at running back.
I feel like he's been around for 100 years, but he's only a sophomore.
He's got some juice, Joe. I mean, he's really talented. Not only will he hit you, east and west, but if he sees a little opening, he can put his foot in the ground, and next thing you know, he's climbing on you and hitting you for 20. Their tight end they play 3 of them. This is a deep football team. Offensive line, big, returning some starters, physical, nasty up front. There's a reason they're 10th in the country.
Yeah, certainly. With the regional rankings coming out, it's what. So you guys have played Shepherd, who's number 1, IUP, who's number 3, Slippery Rock, who's 5, and then Gannon is 7. There's no rest for the weary, right?
No, look, and that's we talk about this all the time, Joe. Part of the thing that attracted me to this job is the PSAC and the ability to play all these top 25 opponents, and how many teams from the PSAC get into the Super Region 1 playoffs. And if you're a young man that's being recruited and you want to play top level Division II football, well, you don't have to look far, especially being in this area. This isn't a challenge that we're excited for, though. Very rich, strong program, a lot of success. And, we just got to get back out and start competing. We got to get that nasty, bitter taste out of our mouth from Saturday. And, this is a great opportunity for us. We get to go down there. I like playing on the road.
And I'll be honest with you. Shepherd, no disrespect to Shepherd, I think Slippery Rock's the best atmosphere. Slippery Rock's they care. I mean, it's fun. It is one of the few places where there is a real home field advantage. Their crowd's awesome.
Well, I've only been there one time, and it was when I was an assistant at IUP in 2019.
How'd that go for you? They don't like you there.
No. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, the Rock Rowdies and everything they have going on, it's awesome.
They do a nice job for their game day.
They really do. And, I felt like the closest thing to being a Baltimore Raven playing in Pittsburgh against the Steelers.
It is a fun place to play.
No, it's awesome. It's a great atmosphere.
It's a great atmosphere. Now, so the regional rankings, the national rankings, for those of you that are new to the game, are totally irrelevant. These are the equivalent to the college football rankings. You could be ranked number 1 in the world, but where you're ranked, now Slippery Rock has aspirations. Now, do you look at that as an advantage, a disadvantage, or a non-factor as you get ready for the Rock?
I mean, look, you approach each opponent, and we got to hit the reset button and go. As the next opponent, this is the most important game. Obviously, they're 5th in the region. They're in the playoffs if they started tomorrow. And then they get an opportunity to go and compete for a national championship. And I know that, that's a goal there at Slippery Rock University. I talked to our players today about the exciting factor of going down there against another top 10 opponent in the country and an opportunity to compete and potentially play spoiler, and that's.
Well, I can tell you this right now. If you were to upset Slippery Rock, I'm going to venture the guess you're going to be the headline on D2Football.com. I mean, it would be because again, they're and I think it's kind of silly, but the Rock, because it's the Rock, I mean, is a name that people know.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just they've done a nice job marketing it.
Well, when it started, Dr. George Mahalik has done a great job establishing the program, and Sean Lutz is carrying the tradition. Again, this is a rich program. You'd mentioned all the success they've had, and for us, it's an opportunity to go out and compete against the best in Super Region 1. And that's exactly, I know you talked to Nico earlier and about what we're trying to build and the culture and the development. We want to be in these types of games. This isn't something that we're shying away from. We know exactly who the opponent is, and we know that we've got to bring our best and we got to bring our A game. And that's the thing, to me, I think that gets our guys excited. Because, again, we can't go back and look at Saturday and, oh, woe is me. And, look, we got to get back on the horse. We got to start riding, and I can think of no better opponent than the opportunity to go out and play the number 5 team in Super Region 1 and number 10 in the country.
Now, I got to ask you, because you're still a young coach, when you look like the Rock or IUP, like when you're evaluating, do you try to take tidbits like, okay, this is kind of what I want my brand to be, stealing from a little bit
No,
from
I'm going to be honest with you. No, I mean, I'm not that guy that is enamored with everybody else is doing. And our players can tell you that, and everyone that's been around me knows that. To me, you've got to be the best version of yourself. And I don't know how to be anybody but Jake Nulph. And that's what we're trying to build, and that's what we're trying to do here at Edinboro. Paul Tortorella does what's best for IUP. Sean Lutz does what's best for Slippery Rock, et cetera. I got to do what's best for Edinboro. And, the thing is, they've had a lot of success. And, Edinboro has had a lot of success too. We've got to get the program back to where it was that. And that's why Dr. Robbins hired me. And that's, what we're trying to establish to do. And our players understand how important this game is. And, we talk about those building blocks. Well, look, here it is. It's right in front of us.
Let's go get wins.
Yeah, let's go get
They're
it.
Cornerstones, right?
Absolutely.
All right, kids have all been waiting. Cue the thing, right? 2 reasons you win, 2 reasons you lose.
I think that, again, pull my Woody string on my Toy Story doll, right? I mean, look, this is a big play offense, Slippery Rock. They've had 83 explosive plays in their 9 games so far. So we can't give up those splash plays. And then I think when you look at their defense, we got to take what they give you. They're opportunistic. They do a really good job of shutting down the run. If they get you behind the sticks, again, they're going to jump into that 2-man and try to lock some things down. We've really got to stay on schedule. We've got to be able to establish some kind of a running game this week, so that not all the stress and all the pressure is on our quarterback and our offensive line. And, I take a look at the special teams battle as well in field position. If we can generate some short fields for our offense and be able to make that offense drive the length of the field and make them earn it and not give up big plays, I think that's where you'll see the tail of the tape. We're going to have to create splash plays on Saturday. And that's been our formula, our recipe in the games that we've won. We've taken the ball away. We've hit our shots. We've made those plays. Well, I can think of we've got to do those on Saturday.
Yeah, certainly, in all 3 phases.
All 3 phases.
That's the thing. And of course, again, for those, I'm sure that you went back. The game plan wasn't all that different from Clarion to Seton Hill. It was 6, 7 plays that you didn't make, they made, however you want to splice it. And again, I don't think people necessarily, until you're really watching, realize, because you can kind of feel after the fact. You're feeling inside like, boy, that was one we had to have.
Absolutely. And that's what we tell our guys. Every single play matters. You never know which play in the game is going to change the momentum and potentially win it for you. And that's where we got to get back into making those plays and feeling good about ourselves.
All right. That's it. Thanks to Nico Mrvos for joining us. Of course, Jake Nulph, everybody here at the Edinboro Hotel. Thanks to Pat. And that's it for this episode of the Jake Nulph Show. Thank you for joining us, however you may be doing so. Back again next week.
Go Burrow.